Ladies and gentlemen, the stories you are about to hear are true. Names have not been changed to protect the guilty. When you think of the worst teacher you've ever had, who comes to mind?
Mrs. Evans.
Mine is my high school chemistry teacher named Denny Dennison, who I had 6 years ago, and I still haven't gotten over it. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you a series of short stories to confirm this point. Stories that showed me the value in laughing through the hard times and how what seems like a trial can actually turn out to be a pretty great memory. So my sophomore year of high school, Mr. Dennison had just transferred to teach at my school. He was 65 years old, and he looked exactly like what you would picture a mad scientist to look like. He was short, a little portly, frizzed out white hair, and he was the truest definition of a character. From the very beginning, we knew something was pretty strange about him. Even my parents came home from Meet the Teacher night and were like, "Oh, Avery, you're in for a ride." But nonetheless, I was confident. Let it be known that I come from a strong chemistry background. My sister wants to major in chemistry. My grandfather was a chemist. I've always been a math person, so I was hopeful that things could turn out well for me. But I could not have been more wrong. Let me begin on the first day. This is what they call foreshadowing. In most classes, you walk in to the first day of school, have the teacher introduce himself, give you a little bit of information about what the class would be like. But not in Mr. Dennison's class. We walked into his class, and he started talking like Donald Duck. He introduced our first assignment to us, something related to finding the weight of Scrooge's pennies, completely in character. There was no, anything that made him seem like he was a normal person. He just would not be deterred. And that should have been the first sign. We did look into switching our schedules, my friends and I, but it would have just been too much of a big change for it to really work out. As you can probably already gather, the classroom dynamic was highly abnormal. Mr. Dickinson would go entire class periods without speaking one word to us. He would walk into class, and there would be a stack of papers on the front desk, but no one bothered to look at them because half the time they were something that mattered, and half the time it was just busy work. So there was really no sense in doing anything until you saw a zero in the grade book. Mr. Dennison was also essentially deaf. He would sit at his desk during class and read as if no one was there. The phone would ring and he would not notice. We would have to flail our arms to signal to him that the phone was ringing, and he would not be disturbed. As you can imagine, test days in Mr. Dennison's class were also very interesting. We did everything we could to prepare. We talked to older friends who had had chemistry before. We would consult the internet. We even reached out to other teachers within the division to prepare. But by the time the test came, we knew nothing, always. People would literally crawl around on the ground during the test, getting answers from other people. You would see someone with dirty leggings or jeans, and you'd know that there had been a test in Mr. Dennison's class. We were the definition of hopeless. Another great example of how this led to some really interesting classroom activities happened one day. I had Mr. Dennison for 7th period, and there had been an issue with people leaving class before the bell had rang. So one day, we walked into class, and we see that he's written on the whiteboard, "Those out of their seat before the bell rings will be given detention." So we thought, oh, okay, that makes sense. It must have gone back to administration, that there was an issue. Fair enough. So we were thinking, what would be even worse than going to detention after school? Getting a hug from Mr. Dennison. And so we changed it to say on the board, "Those out of their seat when the bell rings will be given a hug." The whole class goes on. Mr. Dennison does not notice, does not say a word. Everyone is roaring, thinks it's so funny, until the final 5 minutes of class, when Mr. Dennison stands up and he says, "Contrary to what the board says, those out of their seats when the bell rings will be given detention, not a hug." And we roared about it hysterically. I wish that I could say that things turned out well, that as the final approached, Mr. Dennison really turned things around and made an effort to leave us with some lasting knowledge that we could hang on to. But this was not the case. Even on the very last day before our final exam, we were hopeful of a review session, or at least some But no, we walked in and Mr. Dennison sprung a surprise lab onto us. Not just any lab, but we were tasked to find the specific heat of a cheese puff. I think, okay, maybe this lab is a chance to find a grade boost, to finally give them a chance to show what they've learned. But no, everyone in the class, except for one student who was unfairly his favorite, received 30 points off of the lab because they did not bring proper materials. You may be thinking proper materials like closed-toed shoes or a lab coat. No, proper materials in Mr. Dennison's class included a hammer. He wanted us to carry around a hammer the whole day throughout school. And then, so needless to say, we were highly unprepared for our final exam. And this actually stands as the only B on my high school transcript. Ruined my perfect 4.0. But all of that to say, there is something to be said for the fact that I'm still standing up here talking about these stories 6 years later. I will never not laugh when someone brings up cheese puffs or dirty leggings or when I see Mr. Dennison out in public to this day and he ignores me. There's something to be said for learning to laugh throughout the hard times, the good and the bad times, and remembering not to take yourself so seriously. And these are the things that will stick with me, more so than any knowledge of the periodic table. Maybe, all in all, life is just one balanced equation.
All right. What did you think of that?
I think it was a little more free-balling than I expected it to, but I told the story a lot.
A little more free balling? What does that mean?
Like I didn't exactly stick with like my sentence outline. I say more to free ball, but not so much.
6:42. Time's good. Who cares? Okay. Well, I thought it went really well. I mean, it was interesting. You seemed to have fun with it. This guy was an idiot. Got that. But at least he wasn't just completely obnoxious or whatever. It sounds like he was you kind of had fun with the whole thing, and so did he. So as long as that, because I mean, Mrs. Evans was well, I can't say the word, but she was. And if I could find her grave today, I would dance on it. I'm not kidding. I hated that.
Wow.
She made my life hell in 6th grade, and I will never forgive her for it. So, it wasn't that type of teacher.
No.
So, there you go. So, yours was a good memory. That's funny. Intro, right on, dead on. Everything's there. Great hook. Yeah, you actually did the preview, everything. Body's really put well together. The conclusion, I'd say what I said, but then there's got to be something else there. So the balanced equation, that's good, but it's not great. There's something else that could be said, and I'm not sure what it is, but there's some chemistry, something or other.
Yeah. I tried to look up books on chemistry, but they're all like romantic attraction.
Did you look up anything by Kierkegaard? Just wondering. It's a running joke. It's going to go all class period here. But other than that, I thought you did a really good job. It was fun listening to it. So thank you. Jack, you're up.